The best reason to set a super ambitious goal is that our goals create us rather than the other way around. For instance, if you want to grow your business by 1,000% in 3 years or less, then you have to become someone who is capable of doing that because our goals create us. Our goals are a vision of who we want to become. To achieve our goals, especially impossible goals, we have to become someone who is capable of achieving it. Our goals are not just a tool to get what we want. They're a tool to become who we want to be. The bigger your goal, the bigger you have to become to achieve it. I used to think that who we are determines what we want from life, but it's exactly the opposite. What we want from life determines who we are. The things we want that we're willing to commit to transform us into someone who can achieve them. Oddly, most of us don't want much. We're content to settle for incremental progress. I know I was. Growing up, I was taught to set realistic goals. I was advised not to expect too much from life, so I wouldn't be too disappointed. I learned the lesson well. I kept my ambitions appropriately in check. But eventually I reached a point in my life where ordinary progress was no longer enough. I wanted extraordinary. When I first learned the incredible power of setting impossible goals, I no longer felt trapped by incremental progress because I was no longer limited by incremental goals or an incremental future. Instead of being realistic about what I wanted, I forced myself to consider a goal that was so far beyond my capabilities that I believed it to be impossible. But I committed to it anyway, and then I achieved it. But what really happened was that my goal achieved me. Achieving my impossible goal transformed me into someone for whom it was possible. This was when I realized that becoming that person was the real payoff for pursuing that goal, not the goal itself, but the growth it required from me. And that was just the beginning. This new, more capable me was the new launching pad for my next impossible goal, and so on. Instead of being incremental, my growth became exponential. That was the real payoff for pursuing the impossible. You can never know what is possible for you until you embrace the impossible. Before I did that, I used to buy into the idea that what I do in the present is what creates my future. But like so much conventional wisdom, this is entirely backwards. If you want to experience a bigger present, then you need to create a bigger future. The future you commit to will create the present you experience. Before you can improve your work and your life by an order of magnitude, first you need to improve your future by an order of magnitude. In shorthand, it looks like this. When you have a 10x future, you give yourself a 10x present. When you commit to an impossible future, you create an impossible present. It doesn't get much simpler, does it? If you commit to a future that is 10 times beyond what you have now, then you create a present that is 10 times better, period. Full stop. The secret of 10x thinking is that your future creates your present, not the other way around. There's a reason for this. If we don't create a big enough future, then we get trapped by the present. We allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by those 80% of our tasks that produce only 20% of our results. Back to the 80-20 rule again. When we get lost in the urgency of the moment, we sacrifice the promise of the future. If our future isn't far more compelling than our present, then we will simply ignore the promise of the future in favor of the immediacy of the present. But when we commit to an impossible future, a future that is 10 times beyond our present, then we begin to weigh our activities and our decisions in the present according to how they'll affect our 10x future. we evaluate everything we do by this powerful new filter. How will this help me reach my 10x goal? How will this help me achieve the impossible? To be clear, it's not that you want to live in the future, but you want the future to live in the present. By committing to a 10x future, you empower yourself to make 10x decisions in the present. You use your compelling future to fuel your compelling present. This future-focused present is one of the major reasons why it's easier to achieve a 10x goal than it is to achieve a conventional goal. Without a compelling future, the present is nothing but noise. A million details crying out for your attention. Billions of people seeking to distract you. The bigger you make your future, the easier it is to filter out the noise in the present so you can concentrate on those 20% of tasks that will produce 80% of your results. Your commitment to a 10x goal in the future makes it abundantly clear which strategies and which actions you need to pursue in the present, and which of your current strategies and activities need to be discarded because they're nothing but noise. When you focus on a 10x future, you're thinking exponentially. Exponential progress requires less work than linear progress. Linear progress is like adding 10 plus 10 and getting 20. Exponential progress is like raising 10 to a higher power, like a 2, and getting 100, or a 3 and getting 1,000. When we think and act in a linear fashion, we're limited by time and energy. But when we think and act exponentially, there are no such limits. To achieve a 10x goal is actually easier than what you're doing now because it focuses your attention on what's most important to you. As we've seen, when it comes to your cognitive resources, the scarcest and most precious of all is your attention. Your attention is your weakest link. But when you switch to 10x thinking, you turn your weakest link into your strongest link. You commit to your 10x goal, and you narrow your focus so dramatically that you pay attention only to what will help you reach your 10x goal. Everything else is noise. To consider an example from business, imagine how many ways, how many countless things you can do to increase your revenue incrementally. 30% a year, let's say. But there are very few things you can do to increase your revenue 10 times, maybe only 1 or 2. So your path forward, if you commit to that 10 times growth, your path forward becomes crystal clear because you no longer have to consider all the countless other options that can give you incremental progress. Instead, you're free to focus your precious attention, your time, your energy, your cognitive resources entirely on the 1 or 2 options that will help you achieve your 10x goal. And now the bad news. As brutal as this sounds, 10x thinking is not for everyone. Even though it's actually easier to achieve the impossible than it is to keep doing what you're doing now, at first glance, it may not feel that way. Committing to an impossible goal is going to take you outside your comfort zone. Not everybody can handle this. Not everybody even wants to. If I had to guess, I'd say that only 1 in 100 is willing to make that commitment. The rest are content to make incremental progress in their life, or no progress at all. The good news is you get to decide this for yourself. Are you in the 1% or are you in the 99%? If you're not committed to becoming someone who can accomplish the impossible, there's nothing wrong with that. Most people aren't. But if you're the 1 in 100 who is willing to commit to a 10x transformation of your work and your life, then you're also committed to reaping the rewards of this kind of transformation. You're committed to having a much greater impact in the world, to earning dramatically more income, to experiencing more freedom, to enjoying the highest levels of success and happiness. And when the bell finally tolls for you, as it will for all of us, you'll leave behind a far greater legacy. But what about the other 99% of the population? Why don't they get on board the 10x success train? Well, I suspect they're afraid of what extraordinary success might mean for them. If they take their life to a level that is 10 times beyond where they are now, will they even belong there anymore? Most people just aren't willing to find out. It doesn't make them weak, and it doesn't make them wrong. If anything, it just makes them normal. It allows them to remain in their comfort zone and be part of the 99% who are willing to settle for less. The stark truth is that those who are committed to achieving the impossible are decidedly not normal. There's no other way to put it. They understand that normal people are the average, and average people produce average results. If you want results that are greater than average, then you have to become more than average. If you want to be more than average, then you have to think differently than average people think. You have to learn more than average people learn. You have to grow more than average people grow. And you have to do more than average people do. The only way to produce extraordinary results in your life is to become an extraordinary person. There are no shortcuts to this requirement. None. But there are shortcuts to the process of becoming an extraordinary person. That's what this video is all about, and all of my videos are all about, and my books, and my coaching program. All of this shares a new and different way to think differently than the 99% of your fellow human beings do. Not because you think you're better than they are, and not because you want less for them, but because you want more for yourself than they have. You want more for your family than their families have. You want to contribute more to your community and the world than they do. And you want to leave a more lasting legacy than they will ever leave. That's why you commit to achieving the impossible. If it isn't obvious by now, let me spell it out. You will contribute far more to the general benefit of humanity as an extraordinary person than you ever can as an average person. My videos share new ways to think so you can become even more extraordinary than you are now. And you're already pretty extraordinary because you've gotten this far. We have a lot more videos coming up, but if you'd like a deeper dive into the astonishing secret and power of the 10x superpower, which is a breakthrough that can help you take your business and your life to a level that is literally 10 times beyond where you are now, then you might want to see if you qualify for a free Superpower coaching call with me. This call is a chance for us to get to know one another, to see if you want to work with me one-on-one as your personal Superpower coach, and also to see if I want to work with you. There are no obligations either way. And either way, you get a free excerpt from my mind-blowing new book, How to Make the Impossible Easy. If you're interested, check the link below, right down there. Meanwhile, to pick up where we left off a minute ago, we've been talking about what it means to embrace the impossible. This is the first of 10 breakthroughs that I reveal in my new book. In the next video, we'll talk about the next breakthrough. And it's a humdinger. You can find it right there.